You can go ahead and get started.
All right. Thank you, Diana. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 2024 launch of our Connector Corner series. I'm Charlie Greenberg, the product marketing manager for both Integration Service and the Integration Service Connector Catalog. In our previous episodes, we focused and drilled down on one or two connectors and their activities. But today we're going to take a broader look at integration service itself, how it centralizes connectivity management, and how it provides best-in-class automation. That said, let's begin by drawing attention to the recent growth spurt of our connector catalog. In fact, we're actually adding new connectors with curated activities and triggers on a weekly basis now. And let's also point out that all these connectors have one mission in life, and that's to accelerate system connectivity across any UiPath automation. So think of the connector catalog as a way of connecting your automations across different lines of business and departments, and a way of providing the weaving in of IT technologies for your automations, such as infrastructure support, as you can see on some examples on the right side of those types of connectors, or web services. And also, we're going to be talking about the new HTTP webhook connector, which we will be highlighting in just a minute, along with, by the way, Connector Builder. So let me also point out that we're talking about Gen AI in terms of connectors. And this slide particularly demonstrates the highlights available from our particular collection of generative AI connectors, which will provide direct access to the best AI models that the industry has to offer. These models, by the way, have been curated by UiPath for ease of use, and their APIs provide you the access to the activities you need in order to weave Gen AI into your automations. But so you know, this slide is not displaying everything that's coming up in terms of new AI connectors, or coming up in terms of new use cases, and of course, access to LLMs, or large language models. But you know, we're presenting live here, okay? So I'm not at liberty today to discuss the latest connector type technologies. So you're all invited to the upcoming UiPath AI Summit taking place on March 19th, at which point all will be revealed regarding the latest in new automation accessibility for Gen AI, whether it's new connectors or AI activities, models, or please just come. And of course, as you can see, the AI Summit is about a lot of very exciting things in addition to Gen AI connectors. So we'll also be discussing and demonstrating intelligent document processing. You'll see autopilot in action. We're going to point out the eureka effect of discovery, continuous discovery as AI powered. So again, please plan in the next several days on visiting our website to register for this event. And finally, before I turn our presentation over to Anish, I'd like to thank very much Diana Gray, our community marketing manager, who makes the Connector Corner webinar series possible. So let me all point out to maybe those of you who are just arriving, we're doing a Q&A at the end, though you can, throughout the process, throughout the presentation, add things into the chat box. And also, we're going to do the Menti quiz, and we'll tell you more about that as we get toward the end. But we definitely want to make you comfortable with not only putting things into the chat box, but also almost intruding into joining in to the conversation as you see fit. And if we have a problem with that, we'll tell you, but we're going to be very liberal as far as that's concerned. So, and with that, it's my pleasure to pass the presentation over to Ramakrishna Anish Damerla.
Thank you, Charlie.
And I will stop sharing.
Okay, let me just start sharing from my side. Just give me a second so that I can start sharing my screen. So yeah.
Voila.
So yeah, took a couple of seconds, but here we are. So like Charlie has introduced, my name is Ramakrishna Anish Damerla. I head the entire connector catalog team that is part of Integration Service. And I'm going to take all of you through the Integration Service core capabilities that we support currently. And also, I would be taking you through a couple of demo scenarios that could be useful using Gen AI connector as well as connector builder. So coming to the core capabilities of integration service. So integration service is very powerful with respect to the build capability of the UiPath ecosystem that we have. That is because we have a very extensive connector catalog, which helps in users starting their API automations out of the box, because we have pre-built connectors for a lot of enterprise applications, along with activities and triggers for most of them in order to use them in an unattended way. And then we also have the connector builder for making sure that any connectors that we don't have or we don't support currently, but our customers are still able to use those connectors for their use cases. Or there could also be instances where there are in-house applications that are built and which do not, which are not exposed to the outside world with respect to APIs or documentation. And those kind of connectors can also be built using connector builder so that they can be used within the API automation space of UiPath. Moving on, we also have the connection management. And by connection management, what I mean is we have a central management of all the connections that are created for any connection, any connector. And those connections can be accessed across the UiPath applications that are integrated with integration service. And by this, I mean that the connections that are being created in integration service can be accessed in Studio Web, can be accessed in apps, can be accessed in Automation Hub, or in future through documentation understanding or automation suite. We will also talk about what we have as part of our roadmap in 2024. But the major value as part of the connection management is that whatever connections that are created in integration service are accessible for all the applications across UiPath. Moving on, we also have the activity packs, wherein we expose the endpoints of different connectors so that those activity packs can be used in the workflow building using Studio Web, and the same workflows can be then published for the daily day-to-day use cases that are to be achieved. And the other aspect about activity packs that I wanted to highlight is that most of them, they don't need any kind of API expertise because we have the curations in place so that even if there is minimal line of business knowledge, the users can go in and use the activity packs. And then we have event triggers. So in most of the cases, a downstream application in a workflow has to achieve something, has to act on something based on certain trigger in an upstream application. And that trigger from the upstream application is something that we can use to kick off automations to work automatically. And the same event triggers can also be accessed across dozens of applications. And the future roadmap includes the events to be exposed in other product lines of UiPath as well. From the governance and reliability aspect, we have bring your own app. Now, bring your own app is for the customers who have restrictions or security concerns with respect to the scope management, because we already expose public OAuth apps wherein we predefine the scopes that can be used or that are part of the scope for a particular connector. But sometimes, the users or the IT organization within the customer organization, they are not really uh, comfortable, allowing these kind of accesses. So for that reason, we also provide the option of creating your own OAuth app using your own credentials. And when I say credentials, the credentials that are provided by the IT organization, and those OAuth apps with the scopes that are specifically required for a particular use case can be passed on to the OAuth app, and the workflow can be automated accordingly. Connection sharing, another interesting feature that we have. Now, most of the times when the users who are building the workflows need not necessarily have the access to the credentials of the OAuth apps that we just discussed, uh, the client IDs, the client secrets, or the API keys for the APIs of a particular application. Now, in that situation, we want to still enable our users to make sure that they still can build workflows. At the same time, they need not I mean, the IT organization need not be worrying about the security aspects. So with this connection sharing capability, we enable IT organization to create connections, which is very simple. There is not much that is required technically from IT organization, as long as they put in the credentials. And then and then once the connection is created, the connection can then be shared with a group of people or a team or a particular person that would be working on creating the workflow or creating the automation. So the the automation is still being built without the risk of the credentials being shared uh, to the users that who need not necessarily require that access. Okay. Any questions till now? Cool. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Oh, there's one more. Notifications and alerting. We also alert the any challenges with respect to connectivity that might impact the actual execution through emails. So there can be instances when the connection that has been created is no longer valid, and the users who might have created that connection would not be aware, but the same connection is being used for a production, for a use case that is deployed in production, but this connection getting invalid would end up breaking that automation which is in place. And hence, we make sure that the users are notified that the connections are not valid anymore, so that they can go ahead and create new connections if required, or fix the existing connections so that the automations are not affected in in at runtime, basically. Okay, moving on. Like I've discussed previously, the integration service is available across all the products in the UiPath ecosystem and can be uh, used anywhere, starting from the Studio Web, Studio Apps, Document Understanding, the Automation Cloud, Assistant Orchestrator. So integration service is basically the backbone that provides all the necessary uh, connection related details or uh, connector related details to all the applications that are listed here. Okay. Yeah. Coming to connector builder, like I've mentioned, there could be instances where we are not able to provide uh, a connector off the shelf, or there could be situations where certain applications are built in-house. Those kind of connectors are obvious. Those kind of applications obviously will not be able to support because we don't have the documentation and the necessary accesses to the APIs, and hence connector builder would come to save the day. And using connector builder, any connector that has been created can quickly be published to the tenant that you are working in or the users are working in, and use the same connector immediately in Studio Web and Studio. And in future, we would also like to extend this capability to other product lines like apps and document understanding in future. But currently, it is available uh, today in Studio and Studio Web. Now, Connector Builder is already in GA, and in my demo, I can quickly also take you with respect to where you can find the Connector Builder and how to use it in order to create a custom connector. Okay, any questions till now?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, so would you mind maybe showing how, like, just in general, how would you do this in Studio itself? Are those the same activities? How does this work comparison to the old HTTP integration?
Mm-hmm. So you mean to say that how I can show the connector that is being built through Connector Builder being
Yeah.
available in Studio?
Yeah. How can you just integrate into whatever you're building here?
Makes sense. Sure. I can show that to you probably during the demo.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have another question. Is there a connector for Epic EMR?
Epic EMR, no, we currently don't have a connector for that, but we can probably look at it if I can get to know the exact use cases that are being looked at.
Great.
Anish, there is a connector for Epic EHR right now, correct?
FHIR, that is. It is Epic FHIR.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. Yeah, this is one of our new features that we have introduced of late, and this is called HTTP webhooks connector. So this connector can effectively help the users to trigger automations from outside the UiPath platform. Like most of the applications, vendor applications, they provide this. Most of the enterprise vendor applications provide this concept of webhooks, wherein they provide the changes, or they can, you know, kind of broadcast the changes whenever there is a change on their side. So that broadcasting of changes is what is called a webhook, and these webhooks can now be used by the users, or they can actually utilize the webhooks supported by the vendor applications through this connector. Now, how does this help the developers or the users per se? Is that they no longer need to wait for the polling interval. Rather, this is much more near real-time experience that they get with webhooks. And they can also have filters on the incoming headers and the payloads of the webhook. It also provides efficient triggering, because the API calls that are actually required for polling is something that gets reduced with webhooks, because this is something that comes from the vendor rather than UiPath asking for any change in the vendor system. And then it is very easy for setting up. I mean, this is very technical, but it still would be easy for a technical user who would want to take a look at setting up a trigger using webhooks. Currently, it is in public preview, so you should be able to see it only if you have enabled the public preview options. And with that, I would like to go talk about the use cases that I would want to discuss today. Now, the first use case that I'm trying to showcase today is notifying the SRE on call when there is a certain ticket. There is a ticket created in Jira in a specific project. Now, even though we are discussing about a ticket getting created in Jira, the actual use case, if we look at it, would be the ticket itself getting created in Jira would be based on some upstream observability service like a Datadog. And based on that uh, change, a ticket gets created. Let us say the throughput has reduced, or there is some service that is down, which Datadog has uh, triggered. Datadog created uh, has created a ticket in Jira. And then from then onwards, how does the SRE on call would get to know that there has been an incident? So the moment a ticket is created in a specific project in Jira, there will be a webhook that we'll be looking at that is configured in order to make sure that the event uh, gets triggered, and that event would ideally create a new incident in PagerDuty, and then the SRE on call, who is uh, configured within PagerDuty, that there has been an incident, and they'll get notified, and then they can quickly look at what is happening. Now, from a business benefit point of view, with this automation, the time to detect a particular issue would get reduced, because the SRE need not be continuously checking Datadog. And at the same time, it improves tracking of incidents, because generally, once, even if there is there is a notification from Datadog, the SRE also needs to create a ticket in Jira, so that the ticket uh, gives the trackability. But the thing is, given the incidents that the SRE has to work on, sometimes they might end up missing creating of a ticket. Or even if they do, it might be some time after some time has lapsed, which ideally doesn't reflect the exact time with respect to when the incident has happened. Now, the implementation time for this automation is less than a week. I would say even lesser. But again, depending on the technicalities, it will definitely take less than a week. And the technologies here that we are using is the webhooks of Jira and APIs of Jira and the PagerDuty API. Now, let me quickly take you through the demo. Now, if you look at the current integration service, we have all the connectors that we currently support off the shelf are listed here, which I'm going to see if I have the relevant connectors that I want to use in that use case. I have Jira here. Now I also want to see if I have PagerDuty. Now PagerDuty is this is a custom connector that I have built, but apart from that, ideally we don't have anything that is supported off the shelf in our current catalog. So I am going to take you through the end-to-end process of building the connector from the scratch. So I have the PagerDuty API documentation opened up here so that it's easier to refer. And we have the option of building a custom connector here in integration service. So once we go into that, yep. So create a new connector. I would just try to create a new connector, and by clicking on create a new connector, there would be two options that would be available. One is starting creation of a custom connector from an API definition, something like a Swagger file or Postman collection that can be exported, that could be imported and then be used. At the same time, we can also start the connector from the scratch. And this is the option that I'm going to use today. So I'll name the connector PagerDuty. Okay, and then description icon. All these are something that we can provide. But in the interest of time, I'm just going ahead and creating. Okay. So the base URL. By base URL, what we mean is that what is the exact URL that PagerDuty would be expecting from us. Now, if we look at it, for this, I want to go and see maybe an incident API. So when we look at it, there is here. Okay. In the interest of time, I'll just, since I remember it, it is https api.pagerduty.com. So I'm just going to put in this URL, and I'm going to save this configuration as this is the URL that we would be hitting for all the endpoints that we would want to build for the PagerDuty. And then moving on to authentication. There are multiple authentication types that are available as part of Connector Builder. Now, for this. For PagerDuty, we also have different authentication mechanisms, out of which there is API token that they allow. So I'm going to just select API key. And then I'm going to check what is that, how is that they are expecting the header to be passed. Now the header is to be passed like this for API key authentication. It needs to be authorization and then the API key in the format of this. So I'll just go. So we can, as you can see, the moment I have selected API key, there are a couple of options that popped up, and one of which is asking me whether I want the user, whether I want to ask the user to provide their API key or not. And yes, I want the user to provide the API key, so I'll leave it as this. But I want to edit it because the header, they are asking for authorization. I mean to say this. So I'll just copy this, paste it here, and I'll save. Now I'll just try creating a connection. By the way, I have already created an API key in this settings, account settings in PagerDuty sandbox account that I have. So I already acquired the API key, which I'm going to use. So I'll just pass the API key in the format that the documentation has asked me to, and I'll just try connecting. Yes, and I'm able to create a connection successfully to the connector that I have built. Now, as part of my use case, I just want incident endpoint to be created so that I can create an incident in PagerDuty whenever there is a Jira ticket in a particular project. So I'll just say, yeah, this URL. So like I said, this base URL is something that we have already configured. We are just adding on top of it. I'll say incidents. And like you see, there are already certain methods that are coming up on the right, which I can use, which I can select whatever I want to create. I'm just selecting list and insert record since I just want to check what all things I can do with listed insert. Okay, I'll go ahead and create. Okay, now we got incident and get and post on the left. Now we need to create the response and request fields of this particular connector. Okay, so since it is get, I'm just going to say, and there are already certain parameters that are coming up, page size and the page, which is fine. We'll just try sending out a request. Okay, I have it here, incident creation. Just going to not override anything and just execute. So the reason it is not found is most probably that I have changed the path, because that is not how the vendor is expecting. If you see now, since I have provided it in the format that PagerDuty API is expecting, it has given me the response, 200 response, and this is the provider response. That is, this is the response that is coming directly from PagerDuty. Now what I'll do is I'll just copy this response and I'll go to the response fields. Now, since this is a get call, there are no request fields, only response fields. So I'll just, there is a options button here that I'm going to select, and I'm going to say generate from payload. I'm going to copy all this that I have copied and I'll paste it here and I'll say generate. And all the response fields are generated automatically. Now I'm also going to say update root key as incidents. The reason I'm doing this is because when we actually publish it to the catalog and try to use it in Studio or Studio Web, these incidents, I mean, this format is something that is not accepted, and hence we want to make sure that it doesn't fail at a later point in time. Now, that is with respect to get incidents. Now let's go to post incidents. Okay, now let's go to the post incidents. Now, if we look at the documentation of post, they are specifically asking that there needs to be a from parameter that needs to be passed in the header. So, but if we look at it, we don't have that parameter here. So I'm going to add a parameter from provider type is header. It is required because the vendor is looking for it, like they want it, and it's a mandatory field that they want parameter. And I'm just going to say from, and description again, this display name and description are something that would be seen by the user, and these are something that are from the vendor. I'm just to keep it simple, I'm just going to keep the display name and provider name same for now. And I'm just going to say what is the description for this. I'm just going to say email address and I'll say create. Yeah, we have it here. And now we'll try to send a request and see. Okay, we are getting the from, which is a mandatory parameter expected by the vendor. So, and I'm going to say IS sandboxes because that is the email ID I'm using for PagerDuty. And I have the request payload here. I'm just going to say, yeah. This is the request payload that even PagerDuty wants. So I'm just going to paste it here and I'm going to execute. Yep, it's a 200. So it's successful. So now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to take this, copy this, and I'll go to response fields. Again, I'll do the same. I'll generate it from the payload. And I'll make the root key as incidents. Okay, and coming to the request fields, what I'll do is I'll again generate it from the payload, but this time using the request payload. That's it. I'm going to check it once. Okay, and we are good to publish. Yeah, I want to publish this with this description. Okay, the moment it got published, I'll be able to take it. Now, if I go to integration service and connector builder, I can see that I have this connector which is published, and I can take a look at it in Studio Web. Yeah, in Studio Web, I have a couple of projects that I have pre-built in the interest of time. So I'm going to use PagerDuty demo project. And I'm going to use the PagerDuty connector that we have just built here. But before that, I'll just try to quickly also take you through the webhook event or the webhook connector. So webhook connector, I have used it as a trigger in this workflow. And we just create a connection. This is nothing but whatever connector that we are looking at for getting the webhook from. So here I am trying to get it from Jira. So I have just taken the Jira. That's it. And this is a URL that gets created automatically whenever there is a new webhook trigger that gets added. So I have taken this URL and I have given it in the configuration. Yeah, in the configuration part of Jira webhook. Now this is a configuration page wherein Jira allows me to give any URL that I want to get webhooks at. And I have also created a filter saying that whatever project that I am creating the event in, creating the ticket in, only those events get triggered and not all the events wherever in whichever project tickets get created. So going back to the workflow. So the response of the webhook trigger is not in a JSON format. So first I have deserialized it into a JSON format. Again, body content is nothing but the response that I'm getting from this webhook event, webhook connector. And then I am logging a message just to see what is happening with respect to this content. And then this is purely optional step. And then I'm saying I want to get a record of Jira. And from the record, or rather from the webhook that I'm getting, I'm receiving, I'm taking the issue key and then passing on that issue key. Now I'll be passing on that issue key to the PagerDuty that we have created. Now, if we look at it, we have a custom connector that pops up in our Studio Web connectors list, which I'm going to use it here. And like we have built list all records and insert record. I'm just going to use the insert record here. Now it is asking me to create a connection, which I'm going to do using my like we have configured, it is asking me what is the from. So I'm just going to hard code it since that is the email ID. And then once we get into the manage properties, we have I'm just going to select these request request payload as fields, and they'll be displayed as fields here. Now the same payload that I have here, I'm just going to use each of these here. Now the incident title is something that I don't want to hard code because I want to get that from the Jira summary. So Jira summary field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use the output of get record. And in the output of get record, I have in fields array, I have something called as summary. I'll just use that. And the incident type again is something that okay. Now, since this workflow is built, I'm just going to publish it. Yeah, I'm going to publish it. And now I'm going to go to the orchestrator. To check if whatever I have published is the same version or not. And I'm also going to check what are all the connections that are being used. So in Orchestrator, we can actually configure the connections as well. In case there is one connection that needs to be used for testing purpose and another connection that needs to be used for actual production purpose or runtime. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to use whatever I have created. I'm going to say update. Okay. Now we have it published. Now all that we need to do is create a ticket in the project work with some summary. I'll say T corner test. component engineering, since that's a required field, I'm saying create. The ticket got created. Now let's go back to orchestrator to check what's happening. Now, if you see the PD demo workflow that we have published is already running because it received the webhook from Jira, and we can go to logs to check what is happening. Okay, looks like it already ran. Let's go to this. Yeah, PagerDuty connector corner test is created in PagerDuty, and whatever configurations that SRE team of a particular company could have created. It could be a team, it could be an SRE on call. All those people would get notified now because there is a new incident that got created in PagerDuty. Any questions till now?
Going back to Connector Builder, we have a question which I don't know if it's been answered by the demo, but the question is, what type of background do you need to hit the ground running and be able to actually use the solution?
For Connector Builder
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Connector Builder is mainly for developers who have a certain level of knowledge, who understand the API parlance, just like we have shown, the headers and authentication and all those aspects. But having said that, we are also trying to come up with new features that will help the users build connectors without having all this know-how, or I won't say all this know-how. To certain extent, we can help the users, like how it can be, like how authentication, what kind of authentications are supported, and what is a request payload, what is a response payload. All these aspects are something that we are working on actively, so that these are something that we can really help the users who really do not have that kind of knowledge. But it could be on it is something that we are targeting only post April May timeline, not something that we'll be able to get to immediately.
Yes, that's going to be really powerful. Are there any other questions around the demo that we've seen, the Connector Builder? Attendees? I see we're at the top of the hour. So I'm wondering, is there more to the demo, Anish?
Yes, there is just another demo that I have, which is a simple use case. I wanted to show this use case wherein it is very frequently noticed, or it's a frequent situation wherein we any company can get a support request email in a different language that they are not fluent in, or they are not aware of, right? So what I am talking about is receiving a support request email in German for a person who is sitting in US or in a different country and is not aware of that language altogether. But at the same time, they are supposed to work on it, and so how to deal with the situation, and at the same time, how can we automate the creation of the Salesforce support case itself. Now the benefits, obviously reduction in time to respond and to improved customer satisfaction, because just in the time lapse in order to get the understand what exactly has been sent in email, this helps them immediately get cracking. So for this, I have built a workflow wherein an email is received. And just in the interest of time, I have just put in a couple of words that could come up as part of subject in German if it is a support request email. And then I'm using OpenAI to kind of translate, to first of all understand, identify the language that particular request email is of, and then translate it to English, translate the subject to English, translate the email body to English, and then insert the necessary details into Salesforce case object, and get the object, get the case number, translate it back to the original language that the email was received in, and then respond. So it's a simple but a powerful use case, and hence I just wanted to quickly demonstrate it. So let me just, oh, I think I already have it, if I'm not wrong. No. Okay. Excuse me. I'll just quickly, I don't know what is happening. Sorry. I'll just quickly select, send a mail to myself saying subject this, and body is also this. Send it to myself. Now, I'm just doing this all in the interest of time because I've already published it and it is already available. Orchestrate jobs. Now it'll take a bit of time here because this is not on webhooks, rather this is on polling, and hence it'll take a couple of minutes for it to be initiated. You can just wait.
While we're waiting for that, there is one question. It's not very related to exactly what you're doing now, Anish, but in terms of monitoring performance and integration service, is it about using logs, or do you monitor somehow in the integration service tab?
When you say monitoring, what exactly are we looking at?
What type of performance are we monitoring? Is that questioner still on? Could jump in and go live here. I guess not. It's after the hour. In terms of how, in general, how would you monitor performance?
So performance, definitely we look at So we generally have these performance metrics built in, like how many API calls that are going on. All that now is available in the dashboard, the licensing dashboard that recently got released. And that will keep a track of all the API calls with respect to, now obviously with respect to performance, like how much time is actually being consumed for these API calls to run and all that. We cannot fully control that aspect because we are dependent on the third party vendors here. So we are also depending on their response times. How quickly are they able to respond to the calls that we are making? And hence we cannot maintain those kind of metrics on our side, and hence we don't. But anything that is happening within UiPath Integration Service, those metrics we maintain, but I don't think whether that is really relevant for the end users here, because ultimately the calls that come from the third party vendors is what is much more relevant here, correct? That is the reason we don't have our own UiPath metrics anywhere, but API calls, yes, those are something that we have. Hopefully I answered the question, whoever asked that.
Yes, and he says thank you.
Makes sense. Cool. Okay, going back to our, since it's a mail, I sent it to myself, the response came back, but the response is in a draft mode because, again, since it is my own mail. If we look at it, this is German. I'm just going to quickly translate it to see whether, okay, so I forgot. So this is the word that I have selected, which in English means difficulty, right? So let me quickly also do this in the interest of time. Okay, so the workflow has actually responded saying that, we have received your request and created a case for it. Case number is this. And it has actually responded back in German. Now let's go to Salesforce and check the case. This is the case that got created. And if you see, the description of it is difficulty because that is the subject that we have given in the email. So this is a quick demonstration of how we can leverage GenAI connectors within the day-to-day automations that we can build, and how powerful these GenAI connectors could be for the users. Okay, and with that, I just have one more slide that I quickly want to talk about is what are we planning for 2024 and beyond. We are trying to power the developer community with Connector Builder. Like we have seen right just now that we are able to have whatever connectors that are not currently supported or in-house applications can now be built by the developer community. And there are also other aspects to Connector Builder, just like the question that was asked. What can we make it easier for the users? Yes, definitely those all aspects are being considered. And the other aspects like scripting, having the scripting capability, having capability of adding triggers or events to the connector. Currently, we are only able to support endpoints directly, but not the events. So all these aspects are something that we are looking at as part of 2024 roadmap for Connector Builder. Having 100 plus new connectors as part of Connector Catalog in 2024. We also have an extensive roadmap for addition of new connectors in the catalog. delivery options. So currently we are, integration services available only in Automation Cloud, but we are actively working on supporting integration service and automation suite as well, along with some new regions that we are coming up with. There are regions for Singapore, there is a region for India itself. So there are other regions that we are also trying to support along with the existing regions that we currently have. Enhanced event trigger experience with real-time events. So what this means is that we are also looking at not just having the webhook connector, but also having the webhooks available within the platform, just like how we have polling. We also want to support webhooks as part of the platform, so that all this deserialization that we have seen, and the entire the code that had to be provided in order to get the issue key and all that, those aspects are no longer required by the end users, and they can quickly create quickly leverage webhooks that are coming in from the vendor platforms. Expansion of a connector catalog and curated activities. So this is not only just the addition of connectors, but also the curated activities and curated events that we are looking at, so that the users can immediately use them whenever they are building the workflows or automations in their day-to-day use cases that they want to achieve.
Thank you, Anish. We're going to go right to the Menti quiz, and participants, I'm going to now instruct you to please look in the chat box, use the code, and there's also a QR you can use right now that Anish is showing you. And there is a prize for our lucky contestants who win. So thank you very much. And if there's any questions right now, in prior to closing, please share. We'd like to know what that is. And I'll talk a little bit while you're answering the Menti quiz, and then we'll, I don't see any additional questions. We'll say goodbye. I just wanted to point out, if you could just briefly go, Anish, back up to slide 16.
Yeah, Charlie, I actually need to share the Menti quiz.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so just have a little fun, and thank you guys for hanging in here. Here's the Menti quiz code. So I just want to make sure you get in the right place. We'll try to do this fairly quickly, but we do have a great prize that we'd like to give to you guys, especially those who stayed on the call for so long. So we'll just wait for a few more people to join. Give you guys another 30 seconds. And just so you guys know, we'll be doing these sessions every month. We really appreciate you guys coming to the Connector Corner sessions. And we'll have a variety of speakers. So really encourage you guys to participate. Okay, let's get going. So you need to answer fast to get more points. Which connector is an IT automation connector? Is it Azure OpenAI connector, MailChimp connector, HTTP webhook connector, or none of the above? Great, that was a hard question. Let's see how you guys are doing. Looks like Carl and Leon are tied here. So go to the next question. Again, try to answer fast. Using connector builder requires what? RESTful APIs, Swagger and YAML, Postman collections, or all of the above? Okay. It looks like all of the above. That was a tricky question too. Okay, Leon's moved to the top. Let's go to the next question. The AI acronym LLM means what? Is it long link measurements, large language model, local linear model, or none of the above? Everybody got that right. Great. Okay, let's see who our winner is today. Great. Leon, congratulations. So if you want to put your email address in the chat to me, I'll make sure that I send that out for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Anish. Thanks to everyone who joined and continued to stay in with us. We appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing you next month on March 26th. We'll devote the entire session to AI connectors, activities, large language models, and other things that you will have learned about at DevCon and the AI Summit. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.